Hi folks, just a quick one today, just to tell you my top 5 biggest mistakes as a beginner hiker. So, mistake number 1, failing to take adequate waterproofing. I live in the UK. When I go walking, particularly in the Peak District, you can be in a microclimate, things can change very quickly, you can get fog coming in, rain coming in, where it may not have been forecast lower down, or if you've travelled from outside the area. So check the forecast, prepare for the worst, don't buy cheap because you will buy twice. Part B, 1B, to failing to take adequate waterproofing is failing to look after your waterproofs. So it might be that you've not bought cheap, you've bought something reasonable that should give you a relative kind of amount of water repellency or waterproofing, but you haven't reproofed it, you've washed it using just normal kind of detergents and things like that. So you need to make sure that you're following the manufacturer's label, that you do reproof things regularly, particularly if you're wearing them out a lot and you are getting wet, or they're shoved in bags where you're kind of getting rubbed up against other things. So yeah, buy reasonable stuff and look after it properly. So the next thing, number 2, is a follow-on from having your waterproofs, is take a dry bag and leave it somewhere where it's dry. So if you can't leave it in a car, if you get in public transport there, or for whatever reason you can't take your dry clothes and leave them in the car, make sure that they're in a waterproof bag within your backpack. I've been out a couple of times, got absolutely soaked through every single layer of everything I was wearing, right down, even though my boots were waterproof, the water ran down my legs and my socks into my shoes. If I hadn't had a bag of dry clothes at the end to get changed into, it would have been at least an hour and a half drive home, soaking wet, absolutely freezing, and depending on what the climate is, you know, you could be at risk of hypothermia and things as well. Number 3 of the biggest mistakes that I've made as a beginner hiker is failing to hydrate properly. It's not something that should have been a kind of novice mistake to me, because I've done a lot of running, I've done a lot of cycling, I know how important it is to hydrate. However, when you are doing things that are lower intensity like walking and you're not sweating as much, and particularly if you're in a colder climate where again you don't feel like you're kind of really getting sweaty and you're not particularly feeling thirsty, you can walk quite a long way, and you can dehydrate quite quickly. So it may mean that you don't feel it straight away, but in terms of recovery you might get home and have a banging headache. So just make sure that you've got a sufficient amount of hydration with you, whether that's a hydration pack or a water bottle, or if you plan to get something en route, make sure that you're taking a sip of something probably every 20 to 30 minutes or so. If particularly if it's hot, maybe every hour or so you can have a good glug if it's a bit cooler, but yeah, make sure that you keep drinking. Number 4 is failing to route plan properly, or failing to take proper navigation with you. So it may be that you've plotted a route, or you found a route that you want to do, you take your phone with you because you're doing it, going to use your GPS and navigation to follow a route. You get there and there's no GPS and there's no signal. So you might get somewhere and then have to make it up as you go along, or you might sort of start wandering off and get yourself lost. And again, depending where you are and how remote it is, that you could get into trouble quite quickly. So it's really important that you either download the route or upload the route to your phone if you're doing that, so you've got an offline version. Ideally, take a map so that you're able to see a map if your phone dies or if you lose signal and GPS, and have a compass too, so that you've got some idea of which direction you're going in if you lose your bearings. I was really surprised one of the first times I went up Kinder Scout in the Peak District. I was really excited to get to the trig point, and my sister, who's a much more experienced walker, said to me, you know, I don't really fancy getting up to the top. The weather's really coming in, it's getting really foggy, it's going to be really easy to get disorientated. I'm like, come on, you know, it's just up there, you can see it. And we got there, got to the trig point, and I looked around and I was like, I can't even see where we've just come from. And you know, if you are inexperienced, and this is kind of beginner mistakes, so you know, it would be very, very easy to get lost and end up in trouble. Thankfully, it's a popular walk and there are a lot of people around, and we were able to ask for directions. So yeah, make sure that if you're uploading a route to your phone and you're following it offline, make sure you've got enough charge as well, so you can take an additional battery pack, or ideally, yeah, take a paper map in addition to your digital route, and then you've got a backup plan should your phone fail. And last but not least, point number 5 is make sure you've got the right footwear, particularly if you're going hill walking or mountain walking. Yeah, make sure you've got the right footwear. Just before Christmas, I went hiking in the Peak District again with my sister, and we went up Lewes Hill and Mamtor, and my hiking boots were knackered. I was really ready for a new pair. They were really, really worn. And my sister was like, when she saw the state of them, she's like, oh my God, if you'd have told me they were that bad, we'd have cancelled and we could have done something else. But because I wanted to go, and I thought I was going to be fine, and they were comfortable, I didn't have holes in them or anything, it's just the tread was kind of worn down to nothing in places. And I ended up falling over 3 times. So that not only meant, I mean, it was really wet, it was raining, and that sort of contributed to me falling down. But yeah, that could end up being really, really dangerous depending on where you're walking. You know, quite often you're at places where there's a sheer drop at the side of you and that kind of thing. So make sure that you are wearing sensible footwear with the right kind of tread for the environment that you're walking in, because yeah, you don't want to be falling off any mountains. So that's my collection of beginner mistakes. If you've got any more that you can think of, or things to avoid, please add it in the details below or in the comments below. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, feel free to share, and I'll catch you all soon.